Okay, so I watched another movie that I had never seen but always heard about that it was, on a list of movies to watch kind of thing. That has been Her. Went and got a DVD of it, and you know, I gotta say, I like watching a movie like this that I've never seen before on a physical format because there's like a certain ritual to putting it on the player and whatever, and like I don't know, it's you're sitting down to watch a movie as opposed to hey, I'm flipping through a streaming thing and we might not even watch the whole thing. There's really something to be said for sitting down and watching a fucking like 3 or 4 hour thing in its entirety. That's what Ben Hur kind of is. It's at least 3.5 hours. I didn't look at how long it was. Really fucking long. Really good. You gotta say, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. And the fact that George Lucas skimmed a lot of the prequels off of this movie, I think is funny. Because, like, he totally did. Watch this movie and watch episode 1, and you'll see what I see, which is basically that George Lucas stole a lot of episode 1, at least, if not a lot of the entire prequels, from this movie. For sure, the pod racing shit. That's the part where, like, it's obvious that he meant to make you think of Ben Hur with his pod racing. Now this is pod racing. That's all. That's what I thought at multiple times in this movie. It's like, yeah, this is pod racing. See what else? There's a point where the bad guy in this movie is all trashed from being trampled under some chariots, and he's on like a surgical table under the fucking Coliseum or wherever the fuck it is. And it reminds me of Darth Vader. It reminds me of Darth Vader on the operating table in episode 3. And I think some of that is like, well, wouldn't it be cool if the bad guy lived? And now he doesn't have legs because of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because, like, in a lot of ways, in that scene, Judah Ben-Hur is fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi, and whatever the other guy's name is, his buddy from childhood, is Darth Vader. You can see a lot of, I don't know, I see a lot of shit that he pulled little bits and pieces here or there from a lot of places in that movie, or in those movies. But there's a healthy chunk of it that was Ben-Hur. I think that's kind of cool, and that was half the reason I decided to watch this. Was I saw a couple of scenes on YouTube of this and went, "Oh shit, that's where episode 1 came from." So let's at least go watch that out of curiosity. And I was not expecting it to be a very religious movie. It's up there with the Ten Commandments. This is like the story of Jesus, but told through the eyes of Judah Ben-Hur, the greatest chariot racing Jew in all of human history, whose parents were lepers and cured, and like it's a whole thing. Like, there's a lot of Jesus in this movie. I mean, he basically follows Christ's life a little bit in that when he leaves Judea, there's just starting to be talk of a man who teaches. And when he comes back, it's just in time to like see the Sermon on the Mount and see him crucified. And like some of the Roman scenes in this movie are incredible. Like, you have a full Roman naval battle take place that they did practically. They had, the chariot races, of course, but they had soldiers on the march in full Roman get up out the ass. Like, this movie was giant and epic, and I can see why George Lucas pulled some inspiration from this thing for Star Wars, because like, if you wanted to make a giant epic thing, this definitely was. And episode 1, with its chariot race and everything else, really is, the only other thing I can think of that even comes close to being a chariot racing movie like this. Like, I don't know, maybe I just don't know that many of these. But it seems like there's a lot of Hollywood references over the years that are to this movie. Go watch Hail Caesar. Hail Caesar is a love letter to this movie in a lot of ways. That's the other thing, is they even show you like the imperial court with the emperor and shit like that. Like Judah Ben-Hur, like, goes and wins races in Rome and gets his freedom and becomes adopted by this fucking guy and the whole thing. But in doing that, you get to tour Rome itself through mostly matte paintings. And it's, man, they should make movies like this again. Cat? Sorry. I don't know why we don't make religious movies anymore, or movies about Bible times, but there's ways to do it that are considerably more interesting than just the Passion of the Christ or whatever. It doesn't need to be a giant religious message or what. Like, I guess Ben-Hur kind of is, but it's really, there's a lot of other shit going on in the movie. There's like a little bit of Jesus sprinkled in. I very much enjoyed the amount of religion that was sprinkled into Ben-Hur, and that he kind of comes to everything in his own way. But yet, he never really lost his faith. He always had faith in the God of his ancestors. He just didn't know that it was Jesus that like gave him water while he was, dying. Which is kind of cool. Like, early on in the movie, there's a scene where he's being taken as a slave and whipped or whatever, and they aren't giving him water, and he prays for water, and Jesus hands him a cup. He drinks, and when the Roman comes to beat Jesus, he stares him down and does that whole, like, I don't know. There's a thing where, like, the king can just look at a man and make him stop doing what he is doing. That's what they depicted. And this isn't just like a thing that Jesus does. Like, this is a thing that, like, if you really think you're the king, make me drop the whip without saying a fucking word. So if you are the king, I'll do that. And if you aren't the king, I'll whip you to death. Okay? You can see this sometimes with animals and shit too. Even animals will listen to you when you are channeling whatever the fuck that is. Which is 100% what they showed Jesus doing. I thought that was pretty cool. Man and beast will fear you if you act that way. It's one of the secrets to the universe. If you made it 9 minutes into this review, then you can find out about that. But another place you can see this is one of the things, the royal family. I forget which one it is. It's the one on Netflix with what's his name? John Lithgow plays Winston Churchill. And there's a part in that one where Queen Elizabeth's soon-to-be husband is in Africa with her and faces down an elephant, makes the elephant go away. That's some of that being the king shit. Now, I don't know for sure if that's a true story or not or whatever, but like what they depict there, that's what I'm talking about. And that's what they showed Jesus fucking doing. They showed Jesus facing down a rampaging elephant, basically, and telling it to go away, and it goes away. There's a Roman centurion. He was getting ready to kill Jesus just for giving that man water, probably. And instead, he looked him in the eye and got scared. I'm trying to think of what else I liked in the movie. The chariot race was epic. I don't even like racing. But the amount of death and violence in the fucking chariot race starts piquing my interest a bit when it's, it's not exactly who wins. It's all of the other people lose. The only one that could make it around the track for 9 circuits was Judah Ben-Hur, the hammer of Judea, with his Star of David in the center of his chest. So I really love is that the Arab guy that he gets the horses from that are like the magic horses that can beat anyone or whatever. They're Arabian horses. Is the Arab that he gets them from runs up right before the race and puts a Star of David on his chest. That and you get to see Pontius Pilate several times in this. That was interesting. It's a name you hear about in the Bible that, I never really realized that he was the Roman governor. I guess I always kind of knew that, but I didn't know, context, what that really meant. And like this film shows a lot of Rome, explains a lot of the New Testament, at least to me. I think I used to know more about Rome, but I stopped caring at some point. Pretty easy to stop caring when you live in Rome now, and it's not a good thing to have knowledge of the future. I still think Trump is Gracchus. That's his name. He was the big populist. And he was the herald of demise of the empire in some ways. What else do I like about this movie? The death scene in the chariot race for the bad guy. I forget his name. Marcella or something like that. He gets thrown from his chariot. The wheel breaks or something. It's basically, go watch episode 1 and watch how Sebulba's fucking pod racer comes apart. That is stolen directly from this movie. That is exactly how the chariot of the bad guy comes apart in this movie. And when it does, it throws him out of it, and he gets trampled over by a couple of different chariot teams, and he's pretty worse for wear from it. He looks a little bit like Darth Vader at the end of episode 3. Like, there's not much left of him. That's pretty crazy to think about, that they used to chariot race like that all the time. People getting maimed up like that. Like, they were getting ready to cut his fucking legs off. And I couldn't imagine living in the Roman era without legs. I think that's a pretty good recipe to be a beggar. And the end of the movie's pretty cool because Judah Ben-Hur's mother and sister get cured of leprosy, which that's another thing I kind of forgot about from the Bible times is like that there were lepers. The leper colony reminds me of the COVID. Like, no, don't touch me! Unclean! Unclean! You might have the COVID. That's how people were acting about COVID when, like, leprosy, I could see acting that way. COVID, no. We've become so weak. Well, do you like Ben-Hur? What do you like about Ben-Hur? Tell me. I'm kind of high on this movie now. I might watch it again. It's like there's so much in this movie that it's just so well done. It's kind of like the Ten Commandments. I'm really not that interested in watching the story of Moses. However, Charlton Heston playing Moses is one of my favorites. So, I guess I always was destined to love this movie, but I don't know why it took me so long to see it. It's kind of like Zardoz. Anyway, I'll see you guys later.